Welcome back, guys, to THFA Productions. We're going to be continuing our coverage of Rome 2 Total War. This time, I'm going to be playing Shogun 2 just to teach you a little bit about warfare. This is going to be the embodiment of Sun Tzu's teachings. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. So in these two battles, these are multiplayer online battles, I show you how I defeat my enemies without actually fighting them. Now, I do fight them, I'll grant you that, but I have minimal losses in order to secure victory. So you can see here my setup. I have two heavy wings, all having hidden components, and in the center I have spread out forces. Now the main objective that I have in this game is to go and take the high ground of the hill. That's why I have my archers positioned on the left, supported by cavalry. So the cavalry are first going to move up, led by the bow cavalry, and followed by my mounted gunners. Now I always move these two in conjunction. The bow cav move quicker. They can shoot arrows, obviously. And what they do is lure in the enemy, get off some initial shots, and retreat. If anyone is foolhardy enough to chase them, then I have my mounted gunners to shoot whoever's chasing them. And if both have to run, then I'll have troops behind them to back them up further. Now my enemy is going to be making a push with his entire army up the hill. My whole army is spread out across the field, so I'm going to be combining them. But he's going to have the initial hill advantage. And to secure the hill, what he does is he's going to try and stop my troops from reaching the top. So he charges in these strong cavalry units here. I'm able to get some shots off, but not kill them completely. So I get some shots off and retreat. His cavalry is faster than mine, so it will catch up. I turn around briefly and engage him. And I support with these Yari cavalry from the side. My archers are retreating back into the woods just in case. But you can see here, I run off my mounted gunners and I leave my heavy cavalry to fight his troops, and I end up taking them on and defeating his forces. But he's been able to move the majority of his forces up to the top of the hill, and he's happy with his position. Now the problem is I've moved up my cavalry into these woods up here, which he hasn't secured yet. Now, as I said before, I have my mounted gunners and my bow cavalry used in combination, so I'm going to start whittling away at his troops. He launches his cavalry. So if you're going to win a battle outright, you got to draw your enemy into traps, and that's what I do here. I let him get really close enough to basically almost touch my troops, and I retreat at the last moment. He thinks he's going to catch me, but I have this these hidden forces here. I kept them on hold fire until he was out in the open, and then I unleashed with all my forces, matchlocks, 3 units of archers, all hailing down on him, and then I turned my cavalry around. So that's what you want to do in order to minimize your casualties. You want to bait your enemy into risky positions and making risky movements. So here, what I'm doing is I'm needling him slowly. He is a superior force up on the hill. I still haven't gathered my whole forces, and what I'm going to do is just prick him slowly but surely with these mounted gunners and mounted bowmen. So I'm going to keep moving them around. Now he does have a way to retaliate, and that's going to be by sending forward these troops. But again, it's piecemeal attempts that I'm able to retreat from and basically whittle him down with all my forces here. Now he could attack with his whole forces, but in doing so, he would leave his nested position. So this is what we call campers. Now, usually camping is frowned upon, but in this case, he secured the top of the hill. There's a position there that gives him a bonus, and so he's, it's a tenable position. Now, typically camping provides a huge benefit for the defender because they're set up in a good, strong position with, strong defensive positions. Here, obviously, the hill. So what you want to do to defeat a camper is basically take advantage of the fact that as a camper, they're immobile. So using mobile forces, you got to go ahead and move in and out and exploit his weaknesses. So right here, he has 1 unit of archers on this side, and that's the only thing he has ranged. So what I'm going to do is constantly move forces around so that he can never shoot at them. Then I'm going to sneak my forces back over here, get close up, very close to his line. Knowing he has no cavalry here, I can get extremely close to his forces and gotta get off shots at his general. So what you want to do when there's a camper is going to be to attack in bits and pieces here and there and retreat, and that's how you basically tear apart this defensive force here. And you can see I've enveloped his entire army here, and there's nowhere for him to go, and my enemy goes ahead and submits. He exits the game, giving me victory after only losing about 100 men in my army total. So that's one way to defeat your enemy, and one technique to defeat a camper. So obviously you're going to want to needle your enemy from different directions, poke and prod and exploit his weaknesses as a camper, as someone who doesn't have much mobility. So over here I was going to move my forces over to the side and flank him from the back, but obviously I didn't have the opportunity to because my enemy ended the battle. Now we're going to be moving on to another one. and this is going to be on a separate map. So the technique here is not going to be attacking a camper, but it's going to be essentially getting someone out of position. So again, on the left you saw I had my bow cavalry and my mounted gunners. In the center I have a strong force of lone sword ashigaru supported by matchlocks, and then over here I have another unit of bow cab, and behind them I have my Yari cavalry. So those are going to be my heavy spear cavalry. Now let's get started with the battle. I'm going to deploy my main center forces here. So obviously there's nothing surprising about that. I'm going to move those forces out in the open. I'm fine if my opponent knows they're there. The next move is going to be to move my bow cavalry up. Now my bow cavalry, as I've shown you in the previous battle, is going to be what I use to poke and prod at my enemy, make him make mistakes. And you can see the components of my army that I've left hidden are my mounted gunners and my heavy cavalry. So he doesn't know what's supporting each of these and what traps may lie in wait. So I'm moving my bow arrows, the bow units here, bow cavalry, into the forest, and this is going to lure his forces up here. Now once they're in the forest, my enemy doesn't know exactly where they are, so he's going to fan out and he's going to start searching for them. And I know this, so I'm going to move my bow cavalry in the opposite direction that you would think. So instead of proceeding to continue the direction I entered the forest in, I make an about turn and I head down the hill. So that's going to make it a little harder for him to attack my troops and find them. Also, you can see at the bottom of the screen here, I'm redeploying my matchlocks in case he charges at them. So here he's got his bow cav on wide, spread formation, loose formation. He's going to start sweeping these woods. Now, I don't want him to catch these forces, so I put them at the very edge of the forest, as far away from his search parties as possible. Then on the very back left, you can see those are my bow cav over there, and I'm going to start causing a distraction. He sees them, he sees they're on the flank, and he's going to have to worry about those. Now he's starting to push down, and what I do is I launch this pretty ballsy move where I charge right at his line. Now this is often something you want to do, is do what your enemy least suspects. Now it's very dangerous, as you can see right here. His hidden units come out, and those included a gunner. But because I attacked just when his army was moving, I knew they wouldn't be in position. So what I do is I charge along the very front of his line, and I actually take minimal casualties as I'm doing so. Now he does shoot after me, and some of my horses fall, but it's very little. So what this has done is it's basically led to the impression that all the forces on that side of the map left because I attacked with this unit and then swept them across. So he's thinking, okay, all my cavalry are out in the open and now they've switched to this side. So I've drawn his forces over to this side. As he's moved his cavalry, I suddenly reveal this hidden basically hand, and I move my cavalry out. So you can see what's happened. His whole cavalry forces are shifting over to my bow cavalry, and I'm retreating everything on that side of the battlefield. And as his forces move out of position, that's when I move in with my strong cavalry from this side. So what you want to do with this technique is make your opponent move out of position by baiting him. So just like before, bait your opponent to do something they don't want to, hide your units, and then reveal your hand. So right here, you can see he moved his general out in the open. Knowing this, I charge my upgraded Yari cavalry right into the back of his general, and his general basically has nowhere to go. At this point, my opponent basically admits defeat right then and there. So I was able to win this victory with, I think, 21 losses. So again, embodiment of Sun Tzu's art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. So the technique learned from the first one is if you're going to have an enemy that camps, poke and prod him with your mobile units. Now another technique in the second battle I showed you is distract your enemy with mobile units. Paint a tempting target that he will have to chase. So in this case, he chased my forces over to this side. This unbalanced his entire army, and then deploy your hidden forces and go and attack from the side, from the back. And both of these strategies combined allowed me to win victories with minimal losses to myself, and that's how Sun Tzu would have wanted it. Anyways, I've been Oakley Highdef with THFE Productions. I hope you enjoy. Leave comments below to know what else you'd like me to cover, and I'll keep doing these videos as we approach Rome 2. See you guys out there.